Hi, welcome back to this channel. In this video we're going to be looking at 8 Filipino cultural traits that I have picked up while in the Philippines, all surrounded by Filipinos here in the UK where I live. I've spent a lot of time around Filipinos, both here in the UK and obviously also when I've spent time in the Philippines. Now I know this is going to sound very cliche, but the Philippines has changed my life, and it's not just changed my life socially, but it's also changed the way how I behave. I've adopted a number of different Filipino traits, and one of those is using a tabo. Now if you don't know what a tabo is, it's literally one of these. So it's kind of a bucket with a handle, and Filipinos will use that to do any type of personal care. They'll use it when they go to the loo, and they'll use it often to shower as well if they don't have a shower head, or even if they do have a shower head. A lot of Filipinos prefer using the bucket slash tabo method because they feel they have more control when they shower. Now I don't use the tabo to shower unless I'm in the Philippines and where I'm staying doesn't have a shower head. Whenever I do have a normal shower head, I'll just shower normally, like how we usually do in most of the rest of the world. But when I go to the toilet, I do like to use water to clean up. Toilet paper is not enough for me anymore. It doesn't feel clean, and if you think about it, it's not really that clean if you just use toilet paper. But if you use water as well with a tabo, then it's a lot more hygienic, and that's something that I use in my day-to-day life now. Whenever I go to the loo, I always like to use water to wash myself, and that is something that I have adopted from the Philippines. Now if you look in our bathroom, ta-da, look! We've got our tabo. We do have toilet paper as well, but I feel like I need to use water to be cleaned properly. The next thing about the Philippines that has changed me is that it's made me appreciate family more. Here in the UK, families usually aren't as close as they are in the Philippines. Over in the Philippines, all families are really close to each other. They usually live together for a lot longer than we do in England, or not just in England but also in the West in general. Usually once you get to your late teens, you'll move out of home, and then you won't necessarily drift away from your family, but you'll definitely spend a lot less time with your family than what the average Filipino would. And Filipinos seem to really value their time with their family, and it's definitely made me appreciate my family more, just seeing how happy it makes Filipinos, and it's also made me happier as well. The next trait is a big one, and that's eating rice. Filipinos love rice. They have it with practically every single meal, including breakfast, lunch, and then obviously dinner as well. Here in the UK, we usually just have rice once a week, or sometimes just a couple of times a month. There are some people here that don't like rice as well, which is unheard of in the Philippines. And because of the time I spent there in the Philippines, I've eaten a lot of rice, and then my body's kind of adjusted to it, and now I feel more dependent on rice. I feel like I need rice to be properly full, and I now have rice practically every day. Not necessarily with every meal, but I have rice a lot more than what the average person in the West would have. And not just eating rice, also how you cook rice. I've adopted the way how Filipinos cook rice with a rice cooker, and how they measure out the water with their fingers. I now do that as well. Whereas how I used to do rice, or how most people here do rice, is that they boil it and then they strain the water. And even if you don't use a rice cooker and you use a saucepan to where you measure out the water so that you don't need to strain it, the rice seems to cook a lot better, and it seems to be a lot more tasty, and the texture's a lot nicer. Whereas if you strain it, it's usually soggy and not as nice. So I eat a lot more rice, and I cook it the proper way, the Asian way. Another Filipino trait that I've picked up is eating pulutan with drinks. This is something that most people here in the UK don't do. Usually if you drink, you often don't have any snacks at all. Whereas in the Philippines, you have to have snacks, you have to have pulutan on the table with your drinks. Now to be honest with you, I don't really drink anymore except on occasions, maybe at a social event or something. But if I do, I feel like it's a lot nicer with pulutan. I feel like I always need pulutan now with drinks, just because that's something I picked up in the Philippines, and it seems to go really well with drinks, especially chicharon, and if there's any leftover lechon, that goes really well. And just anything really, any snacks, crisps, or leftover cooked food, cooked over fried chicken that's left over, that goes really well. We would all share the pulutan in the middle of the table like you do in the Philippines. And not just with pulutan, just with snacks in general. You usually share a lot more in the Philippines than we do if we went out for a meal in the UK. You normally just have your meal with your sides, and then we would share a bit, but you seem to share a lot more in the Philippines with foods and just anything in general. Over the past few years I've learnt Tagalog, and over the time when I was learning Tagalog, one of the ways that helped me to learn was listening to OPM songs. And during this time I started to really enjoy listening to those songs, and now in my day-to-day lives these are songs that I still listen to. If I look on my phone, a lot of the songs on my playlist now are OPM songs, and I've got a dedicated OPM playlist that I listen to. Some of my favourite songs now are OPM songs. I listen to all different sorts of Filipino songs, not just newer songs but also some older ones as well, such as songs from the group Asin, and then all different genres as well, and I like Juan Carlos, Glock 9, some XB songs as well, and loads of others. Something years ago I never thought I would do would be to take part in karaoke singing, but while in the Philippines I reluctantly did this and then started to enjoy it, and now I've even done it a few times in England, and I see why it's so popular in the Philippines, because it does bring people together. It can be fun when you're in big groups, and even if you're just doing other things in the background, there can always just be a small group of people singing karaoke, and it's just a lot of fun. Now, if I'm honest, I'm not the biggest fan of karaoke, but if I compare that to how I was a few years ago, I wouldn't really sing at all. But now I feel more open to, and I can enjoy karaoke as well. The next Filipino habit I picked up is buying pasalubong. Whenever I go on holiday or go to a new place, I usually like to buy pasalubong for my family or for close people I know. This is obviously something that I picked up from the Philippines because it's what all Filipinos do. Whenever they travel abroad, whenever they go somewhere new, they'll always buy a present for someone from that place. And it is a nice thing to do. The last trait we're going to be looking at that I picked up from the Philippines isn't exactly something I use in my day-to-day life. It's just something I'd use when I'm around other Filipinos, because they're the only ones that would understand this, and that's pointing with my lips. Especially if I'm carrying something or I don't have another free hand. It's quite convenient actually if you want to point somewhere but you can't point with your fingers. Pointing with your lips can be quite useful. It's a practical way of pointing. Now, the first time I heard of this, I didn't actually believe it at first. I thought, people pointing with their lips? What? It looks like they want to kiss you, but it can be quite practical, and I have been seen doing this a few times. So these were 8 cultural traits / habits that I picked up from Filipinos or while in the Philippines. Let me know in the comments below if you use any of these cultural traits. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel if you're not already. I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.